Hello, everyone, and welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Tonight is all for you. This is we're going to be exploring the big, unique year-round courses at Young Scholars Academy, the AP courses, and some other really exciting ones: leadership, adulting, SAT, writing, a lot of really awesome stuff. So I'm going to screen share a little overview of what you're going to see, and then we'll introduce the teachers, the reason you're here, give a little preview, and then we'll do questions. So that way you leave with all your questions answered. There's a lot of exciting stuff. So let me get right into it. If you see my screen, you'll see the different classes we're looking at. So we're going to have our Adulting and Thriving, AP Calculus, AP English Literature, AP Human Geography, Latin, AP Music Theory, AP Psychology, US Government, History, Comparative Government. There are two, we'll explain. Our Essay Writing Leadership 101, Philosophy and Big Ideas, SAT Prep, and then our fellowship class. So I'm going to put this in the chat first of all, and just going to speak sort of big picture before we go into the individual amazing educators. And I want to jump down to this little bit here, which is, so this year, Young Scholars Academy is WASC accredited, which means that if you are schooling elsewhere, if you go to a full-time school or you're schooling through a charter or something like that, you can submit your write-ups from Young Scholars Academy, the syllabi from Young Scholars Academy, and all those materials to another institution that's your primary school, and then they can issue you a full transcript. So you can say, hi, I go to Young Scholars Academy, here's their paperwork, they're approved, here's the syllabi for the class, it's going to be this many credits, and so there's this benefit, and I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment here. You get the added benefit of also being able to have your child get the AP score if they take the exam, right? And one of the things that we're so proud of is having this average of AP score 4 out of 5, which is pretty awesome. And these kids have spotty transcripts, right? And all of these year-round courses are for that. It's if you're homeschooling or you unschooled or you took a semester off or we bounced around different schools or you have a kid who's got this big brain and struggles with executive function skills, these allow to paint a really positive picture. I have a kid, we bounced around, we took a semester off, he got a 5 in AP psychology. It paints a very different picture, and being able to show that, as well as bake in, and you're going to hear this from the mentors tonight, all of the skills, right? How do we get serious about what comes next? Well, we get kind of higher stakes. So maybe an AP class is overwhelming because they drown kids in production elsewhere, right? Many AP classes are just full of busy work. So we decided, how can we kind of re-engineer that? And we've done it quite well. So how can you have the high level content, the community, the consistency, meeting once a week all year, and not have the burial with worksheets and all the busyness? Plus, again, studying, right? You start taking a class in August, you take the test in May. These are important skills for our kids. So without further ado, let me start introducing our amazing mentors here. And I am going to kick off with Coach Hughes. So Coach Hughes, I'll just screen share your classes, and then we will turn it over to you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you've got going on. So Coach Hughes is doing AP Government and Politics. So this is US Government and Politics. And in case you were not confused, Comparative Government. Okay. So the two are quite different. And Coach Hughes, if you want to give us a little overview about these two special classes and how they differ and what we can expect.
Sure. Hi, my name is Jennifer Hughes. The students call me Coach Hughes because I coach speech debate. I started teaching AP classes in 2009, and just like Sam, my average AP score across students is a 4 out of 5. I've taught micro, macro, US, and for YSA, I'm teaching AP government and AP comparative government. I think that probably what parents need to know the most about advanced placement courses. I was a college professor, I was a full-time college criminal justice professor, and I've sat on admissions boards. And I will tell you, when admission boards see AP and they see high scores in AP, right away what they realize is that students are really good writers, they have really good critical thinking skills. It's not just about busy work with AP, it's about kind of fostering those skills that students need to be successful beyond high school. So just as an example, AP US government, of course, teaches you all about American government, But the way that the course works is we have 4 different essay styles. So we learn how to write a thesis-driven essay. We learn how to look at documents. We learn document analysis. The students, many of them, really struggle with the writing and the organizing of their ideas. So these courses kind of take it up a notch and really help them to express themselves and practice those skills that they might not fully have grasped yet. But we do it in a way that's fun, that's engaging, that has debates. We look at questions in terms of what's going on in the world today versus also history and what led up to what is going on in the world today. So my hope is that your students will, even if they're not the biggest government fans, they'll understand why, if they take this course, government really matters and how it trickles into everything that they do. AP government, in terms of the US government, of course, is about US. Comparative government is a little bit different. Comparative government, it really helps if they have a strong US government. It's more of a political science class. And what you're looking at is governments like Iran, Russia, China, Nigeria, Mexico. We even look at the EU, which is really cool right now because Britain is thinking about joining the EU again, despite all the Brexit, chaos. So it's pretty cool in terms of content, but they also, just to give you a quick rundown of skills, not only will students get college credit if they score well on the exam, you do have to contact the individual colleges that they're thinking of going to, but they also get boosted GPA, which means that they carry weighted grades. And of course, it doesn't hurt, for admissions boards to see this on their transcripts, especially if they've been homeschooling for a while, because sometimes you really have to prove as a homeschooler that you have these skills. So the other thing I would say in terms of careers and life skills, they learn a lot about future careers that they possibly can get into. They learn about leadership. They learn college level rigor. Now, I don't typically give a lot of homework in this class. I kind of tell them what they need to do, and then they can, take it on themselves, go to the College Board site. We do use the College Board site, and they can master different concepts at their own pace. But it also gives them a global perspective, and I would say skills that stick: research and writing, data interpretation, and of course, learning how to debate, civil discourse. And it definitely prepares for college: political science, international relations, global studies, public policy, sociology, or anthropology. So I don't want to overwhelm with too much information, but what I will say is not only is it a really engaging, fun, interesting course. I mean, who doesn't want to talk about what's going on in the world right now? But just the skills are absolutely invaluable, and I hope to see your learners there.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, this is, I think, across the board, you're going to hear the importance of these skills, the studying skills, the learning to learn skills, and the ability to paint that really positive picture of, look at this child, look how bright they are. And again, these are test optional, by the way. I want to underscore that before we go on to the next person. You can take the class all year. We've had a student who took AP here for 3 years, never took the test. He just liked the community and the depth, right? So that's totally fine. You can have a student who is going to call it in the air. The nicest thing, and I want to just point this out before we go over to Miss Patrick for Latin. The nice thing about this kind of creative world we live in is that you can take the class, take the test, and not report the test, right? If it doesn't go so well. So that's always an option. I think that kind of takes a lot of stress away from the kids as well. So thank you so much, Coach Hughes. We're going to go over to Miss Patrick. I'll just screen share quickly our Latin class, which we're going to hear about AP Latin, and then we will turn it over to you. So this is a really unique one. Actually, I had a call with a mom right before this about Latin and a little bit about the interesting way in which Miriam teaches. So this is a really exciting class, which definitely does require some background knowledge before you get here. But it's a really exciting one. So Miriam, take it away.
Hello. So yeah, now I don't know where to start. So I I teach both the novice Latin class along with the now the AP Latin class. And it's been a hot minute since I've taught AP Latin. I taught at the very beginning of my career, and then I taught Latin 4 and Latin 5 for the next, 12, 13 years. And then now I'm back at AP Latin. But that's okay because AP Latin just changed everything about the AP Latin course. Um, So if you might recall that AP Latin was Virgil and Caesar's Virgil's Aeneid and Caesar's De Bello Gallico, and they've done away with Caesar entirely, and they are now doing Pliny the Elder's not Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Younger's letters. I enjoy Pliny the Elder's Naturalis Historia, and and then of course Virgil's Aeneid, and then actually a variety of teacher chosen passages, which will include Naturalis Historia because Pliny the Elder. So it's a whole new game when it comes to AP Latin, which is scary and exciting. And what I can tell you is historically AP Latin has been compared to, I think it's the physics B exam in difficulty, as in one of the most, if not the most difficult AP exam. And these changes are meant to start to address that. Because they have noticed that the AP scores for AP Latin historically are out of sync with pretty much every other AP exam. So that now, and having said that, I can say that my own sister, took AP Latin back when it was in the old system. She got a 3 out of 5 and got credit for 2 years of Latin in college at UGA.
Wow.
So yeah, that's again speaks to the difficulty of the old exam, is that they're giving 2 years of credit at a major national university for a 3. So not to scare anyone, but rather to say if you've been scared, things are changing. So like Sam said, I teach a little bit differently than most Latin teachers. I enjoy the charts like everybody else, except that they don't really serve a purpose. Um, and I'll take that to the bank. So I don't really teach that way. Now with AP Latin, there is some need for some of those things. So they will of course be provided as resources, but when we meet, we'll be doing things the way that I do them, with comprehensible input. So we will adjust the passages to make them understandable so that when you read the originals, they're easier to work with. We'll be doing expressive and creative activities along with everybody's favorite translation activities and commentaries and analyses. So it's AP Latin is going to be a fun class. And I will reiterate what Sam was saying, is that since this is a language class, this should not be your first Latin class. Your first Latin class should be novice Latin with me at another time. But this requires a few years of practice before you get to this, because after all, Virgil, Aeneid, or Virgil, Pliny, Caesar, they were writing for the wealthy, affluent class of Rome who had at least 20 years of speaking Latin under their belt. Thank you.
Thank you
Take
so much,
5.
Miriam. This is really helpful. And again, language is a complex thing, especially for our kiddos, and historically, I think is often done wrong. And one of the really special things about the way Miriam teaches is it's fun, it's engaging, it's entrenched in history and narratives, and it appeals to these 2E and gifted brains. So if you do have a kiddo with some Latin background and they want a place to kind of go deep and have this opportunity, this is that place. All right, we're going to go next. This is a whirlwind tour. You're getting to hear from all these amazing mentors. And by the way, once you present mentors, if you can stick around, I would love to have you. Obviously, if you have to go, if you have class, feel free. But we're going to do a Q&A at the end, which I'm hoping you can stay for. I'm going to go over to Mr. Z next, and then after Mr. Z, we'll go over to Hushbeck. So Mr. Z's here for. By the way, I think we counted up 30 classes or something this year.
Something like that.
Yeah, a lot of classes. So we're going to just talk about 2 tonight in the context of these sort of year-round, really academic classes. The first one's going to be AP Calculus, and then the second one is going to be our SAT prep class. So, Mr. Z, if you want to give us a little insight, I actually spoke with several parents today who were really interested in both of these.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes down to these 2 tests, we've got kind of 2 hands, but they go together in a lot of different ways. So for AP Calculus, that is, the AB exam. There's 2 calculus exams. We are looking at the AB exam, not the BC exam, which is a little bit more difficult. But the AB exam is basically the kind of pinnacle that a lot of people reach when they're doing their math journey, especially in high school, because they get up to AP Calculus, and that's where we kind of take every little bit of math that we've dealt with and we squish it all together, and then we figure out how to actually use calculus to take everything that we learned before and turn it on its head and do something different with it. So I've taught AP Calculus a number of times before. We actually just taught it last year and went through, and we kind of did a crash course, but we went through all of the topics, all of the items on it. Our course is definitely a little bit more on terms of work because there's a lot of stuff to do and a lot of practice to do, but we've got a good book that we run through and we've got a lot of information on, anything that you do as a problem. We've got a lot of detailed explanations on how those problems work, how they're going in, and how to understand what's going on with it. So that's really one thing that we try to keep really up high with this, is to make sure that the understanding at the level of math that we're going to, we know exactly detailed step by step on how this is done, because it really takes time to get used to it. And that's really what we're trying to get, is that amount of confidence and comfort with it so that they can take it and run through. And the AP Calculus exam is really interesting in the fact that you don't actually need to know all of the calculus to do well on the exam. What you need to know is you have to have a good sense of math with it. And it's a test, and it's an AP test, and it's a College Board test that kind of leads into also the SAT prep. There are patterns. There are ways that they always work. There are ways that they have questions. And there are really interesting ways that you can actually approach the problem without having to sit down and write it out. And they actually want you to do that as well, which is something people don't always think about, is we don't have to answer the question by actually going through the whole problem. We can answer the question by using the resources that they are giving us to answer the question. And that actually makes it a lot faster and easier. I mean, just example, I've seen AP written parts that could be solved with just straight up geometry. It just manages to find those students that can think outside the box, which there is a plethora of students that come here that can think outside the box. So it really jives well with them and they can work well with it. When it comes to the SAT prep, though, what we're concentrating on is test taking skills as well. Really, that course is not only to go what's going to be on the SAT, but to teach how to take a test, which, especially in the homeschooling background that we have a lot of people coming from, that's not a usual thing. Standardized testing is usually the bane that we keep away most of the times with homeschooling. But unfortunately, it's going to pop up and we have to deal with it sometimes. So that's why we go through, how to look through your answers carefully, how to pick out what's going to work and what's not going to work, how to solve the problem without having to do the problem. And so we kind of work through all of this to create a environment where the student is getting more comfortable, and we're trying to lessen that test anxiety. We're trying to show them that, this is a test. It's not something that you need to be afraid of. It's going to go. We're going to try it our best, and we're going to do our best on it. And if you keep calm and keep on target, you're going to do a lot better than you even think you could. And that's really what we're looking for.
Thank you, Mr. Z. I think, what I'm hearing, and I want to really underscore this, is the importance of the skills, right? And so much of this is skills. It's building resilience. It's building the ability to spot trends. We don't even have to learn the content to do well in the test, right? And that's a lot of the stuff that our kids like, building that stick with itness, the skills and the rigor, right? In a safe environment. Like a lot of us as parents, we want to give our kids the opportunity to work hard in certain settings and have goal-oriented work. And this is that place. Well, the upside is many and the downside is not, right? If it doesn't go so well, then that's okay. But I love what I'm hearing. These are kind of non-negotiables in the world, and we're helping our kids learn these skills. So thank you, Mr. Z, for doing that in both of these environments. Let's go next. We're going to go in a slightly different direction here. I'm going to go over to Hushbeck next, and then we'll keep going with our APs. Hushbeck's taking over one of the classes that I formerly taught, which I'm really excited about. I always joke that if you take a class with me, you're getting ripped off because everybody else is better. So Hushbeck's doing these really nice courses that I think complement one another, and they're for slightly different age groups. So first and foremost, we have the adulting class, which is really geared towards juniors and seniors in high school and people taking a gap year. Right. And this class is all about building those life skills. I'll let Hushbeck talk about it. And the next one is leadership, which is a really interesting one that came up as kind of a community conversation here at Young Scholars Academy, is how can we help our students create environments that make sense for them and how allow people to come to them? Because it's often hard for our kids to join things, but they're thought leaders. They're really talented. They're really unique. They have these great strengths. What if we teach them how to lead with these, create spaces with these, and go through various models so they can understand how to do so and have people actually come to them? So without further ado, let's go over to you, Hushbeck, and thanks for being here. I know you've been under the weather.
Yeah, I hope everyone can understand me okay and my voice isn't too scratchy.
Sound great.
So starting out with the adulting and thriving class, we're gonna kind of go in 3 acts for that. And it's really gonna get at a lot of issues that us 2E folks can kind of struggle with sometimes. So we're gonna start off and getting to know ourselves, and this is really valuable, especially for that kind of gap year or about to be going to college times, because you have to make so many critical choices and not knowing fully who you are yet. So having that deeper exploration really helps you know your values a little bit better and have a more informed choice. There's a lot of choices that we make at 17 that we maybe wish we could go back and redo, and this is to kind of help prevent them from uh wishing they had that redo. Um and so once they get that really good, stronger base of like who they feel like they are, and us 2E folks, I think we also love to know why we tick and like why we think the way we do. We're going to go into setting up systems for success. So we'll look at like research-based methods of how you stay on track, how you prevent burnout. And so, especially if they are taking some of these AP classes, in multiple, it is going to really focus on like study strategies and stuff like that, time management, and will help them to keep track of that in a way that isn't offered in like a traditional school setting if they've ever been there. Um, this is actually something that I've started teaching in the summers to my traditional students that I teach regularly. And then in like our third and final act, we're going to get to apply like some practical knowledge with money management and time management. And we're also going to get to practice social and advocacy skills and talk about things like how do you make friends as an adult, especially with like third places disappearing for our generation and stuff like that. Um, so it's really just like a really good rounded thing that a lot of people are like, well, I didn't learn this in, my regular school, and it seeks to kind of address those topics. Um, and I think you would also agree with that, Mr. Sam.
Yeah. And I'll just interject quickly before we go on to the next one here. Um, this is a really special class in that it really is. I mean, someone wrote in the chat already, this is the class that everybody needs to take. I feel that it's firmly, this is like a 2E non-negotiable. Going through these 3 phases, talking about, and a lot of times we ask that tired question of like, what do you want to do when you grow up, right? And it's so short-sighted. It's well-intended, but these kids are complex. They don't know. Their brains are developing in spiky ways, and this goes far deeper. What's the intersection of everything that you are good at, love, interested in, the world needs, right? Looking at different models like that, and then what skills might it take to get there, right? And then let's go into the specific nitty-gritty, not just executive function skills, but advocacy, as you said, and some of the others. So it really is a very special course. We need more of this in the world, and I'm very passionate about this course and really delighted that Hushback is taking this one and carrying the mantle. So we can go on to your next one. I just felt like I had to share a bit there.
Yeah, feel free to chime in on that. So the next course, it a little bit different age group, a little bit younger, but of course, any age group that it fits, of course, is welcome. So this is really about leadership through community, and it's inspired by Dr. King's principles of Kingian nonviolence. Um, and maybe if your child is interested in like some of those political ideas in Dr. Hughes class or Coach Hughes class, but they don't quite feel ready for it, this is going to look at some political movements, some political theories, and we're going to start with that baseline. And then we also will have like structured reflections. And then after we get a really good understanding of those principles of Kingian philosophy and stuff like that, they're going to get a chance to actually apply them in the area that they would like. So whether they are like super tech savvy, they're a really great artist, or they're a great writer, whatever medium they feel like they can really make a difference in, they're going to get to have an impact project where they take the lead under guidance, of course, and try to make the positive change that they want to see. So whether that's they make little signs that can be passed out kind of to be at businesses, or they code a website widget to be more accessible. We'll talk about what that is. But I know that so many of them have big ideas around justice and making the world more equitable, but don't always know what those steps can be. So that's really where this class is meant to be taken, and give them those tools from beginning to end to identify a problem, name it, address what it is, um, and then use their specific talents to tackle it. And they also get some of that critical thinking and, you know, um, political analysis in there as well.
Excellent. I think this is such a special class, and I'm really grateful to you for bringing this one. So again, we have the adulting class, which is for juniors and seniors getting ready for that leap, and older students who are in a gap year perhaps. And then we have the leadership one, which is all of the amazingness that Hushbeck just shared. And I hope you can see the trend across the night. These are things that are usually only in university levels, right? Taking these levels of classes, and we're bringing it down for our kids. And I love this example. Like last year, we had a 10-year-old in Mr. Z's AP calculus class, right? Like you have these kids that have these really spiky profiles, and they might be in the youngest social club that we have and the most intellectually demanding math class at the same time, and they're the same kid, and just their interests are different, right? So thank you again, Hushbeck. I know that you've been under the weather. Feel free to head out. No need to stick around if you aren't up for it. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to go over to Jake next. And Jake has a couple quick ones that we are going to dive into. And then after Jake, we're going to do some quick hitters, go over to Sean and Katie and Amy, and go down the line. So Jake's going to be offering many classes this year. I think Jake and Mr. Z are like neck and neck for like 22 classes, 30, running a lot of different options. But the ones we're talking about tonight, we're going to talk about the AP English Literature class, which is a really exciting, deep English class. And then the AP Psychology class, which again, when you make a list of like non-negotiables, I feel that everybody should take many of these classes. So Jake, why don't I turn it over to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm super excited to be teaching these two classes, especially. The AP English class is one that I inadvertently designed for the first gifted 2E school in Pennsylvania. And it's kind of that class that accidentally became an AP English class that I wish I ended up having when I was, throughout school. It really goes deep into like questioning reality, questioning the world, and focusing a lot on like the literature and the questioning that a lot of neurodivergent students especially ask. So things like Gothic Lit, we read Frankenstein, dystopian literature, we're going to read about like an entire language deteriorating and what happens to a civilization as that goes on, and go real deep into like conversations of what is civilization, what is society, what does that mean for all of us individually and as people. And then from there we go into like surrealism with Murakami, and he is a Japanese surrealist author. So I'm super excited to like compare the two, leading from dystopian into that, and then into existentialism, which all of these topics, while they might seem like out there and not really like an AP English type class, it's heavily aligned with what College Board like proposes. A lot of the AP English classes are very broad. A lot of just, as long as you're touching on a couple of different ideas, a couple of different types of texts, you're going to pass the test perfectly fine. And it's not even like a concern. A lot of it is more about the themes, the general ideas behind all of what it is to read, what it is to analyze literature, and what it is to really just like understand who these characters are, what they're thinking about, and the authors as well. For AP Psychology, I'm really excited for this one as well. I am, in my other job, I work as an academic coach for a neurodiversity group, and it's all about ADHD, twice exceptionality, giftedness. So I have that connection to pull from with research and everything as well. But we are also going to dive deep into the standard kind of experiments and research that's been done that is necessary for the AP Psych test, but I want to handle it more in a way where what the students want to learn about, they're going to learn about, and what they're going to take it that direction. So if somebody's really into like the Milgram experiment, for instance, and they want to write a whole essay or a presentation on how that's comparative to like the Nuremberg trials, go for it. We're going to go into that route. So I really want to follow the students with this one, especially. And yeah, I'm just super excited to teach both of those.
Actually, I forgot. Let me do this real quick. I also forgot to mention philosophy. I mean, again, you and Mr. Z have so many classes each, as all of our mentors have so many classes. But while we're here, will you mind sharing a little bit about the philosophy class? Because it's not a year long, but it's a half-year long class.
Yeah, absolutely. So the philosophy class is all about like the broad like introduction to philosophy. It's not going to be, deep into like Kant or anybody. It's going to give you the pre-Socratic philosophers, so like Thales and Anaximander, Epictetus, like all of these people, into like why philosophy started, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, of those three. And then it kind of transitions with like playful questions. So things like how many holes does a straw have? And then really diving deep into like why your answer is that rather than is it the right answer. And at the basis of like all of it is the Socratic method of questioning. That's just what's going to be constantly going back and back and back and back and back and forth. And that one ends up ending with like a meta-modernism, so like a contemporary humanities movement going on. So it's like all across the board from beginning to now.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I want to, this was mentioned briefly, but I want to underscore this. Jake works with Dr. Matt Zakreski and on the Neurodiversity Collective, and is on the podcast co-host as well. So he has this deep, rich knowledge from this psych world. And that's actually how we originally met on the podcast. So very excited about that. I hope you can see this, like these mentors bring this incredible, Coach Hughes was a defense lawyer, criminal defense lawyer before. Like these are people who are experts in this space. And there's so much cool intersectionality too. I love when you all talk. I'm like Miriam will say something. I'm like, oh, I know Jake would like that. And then Jake says something and Katie likes it. And I know Amy likes Murakami as well. So it's so cool to see this village come together. All right, let's keep going, friends. We have a couple more, and then I'm going to open up the floor for questions and hold space for everyone to get all their questions answered. So the next one we're going to jump over to is to Sean. And then after Sean, we'll go over to Katie and then Amy. Sean is going to be doing human geography, which is, I begged Sean to do this year after teaching our Wonders of the World class for the little ones. There's so many teen kids who just love, flags, culture. They know random facts and figures. Probably 10% of the phone calls I've had with parents this week have been students who would be a fan of this class. And I'm really excited about it. So Sean, let me turn it over to you.
Yeah, I was a little reluctant to do this class when Sam first asked me to, but as I dived more into it, I realized that it's all about maps, and I guess I kind of like maps because a few of my Christmas presents have been map quiz books and other things like that. So I was like, okay, I think I can make this work. So our AP Human Geography class, right? A lot of it is focusing on like, what can you learn from the data that's presented in a map? How do we understand it? How do we apply it in useful ways throughout the world? Whether we're looking at a subway map of Tokyo and trying to figure out how train schedules work on those patterns, or whether we're looking at the spread of agriculture throughout the ancient world, how we're seeing different religions and faiths and ideologies spread and mix and change over time. And it's been maps have been something that I enjoy a whole lot, whether they're real world maps or if they're making maps for the D&D games that I run on YSA and other places too. So definitely like it. But what I really enjoy about this is that we get to see how we focus on like different areas, whether like we're going to take one of our units is going to be on like how populations spread and change and how that differs in different areas, right? We might look at the Irish immigrants coming over during the potato famine, right, to the United States. But we'll contrast that with other migrations when the British Empire split up India and Pakistan and how they forcibly moved people from one place to the other. And so we get this historical way to compare and contrast different events, see how these different nations handled that. And we get to apply a lot of that history, that knowledge, to the process of either making or interpreting these maps and these activities. This AP course is really great if your students have already taken AP US or world history or Euro history. There's a lot that builds on those, or if they haven't taken it yet, this is really great as like a first step into that, because all of the examples that we use are linked to these other times in our past, in our history, in our nations, going all the way back to the oldest of things up to more modern times. And I really like that blend, that we get that that worldview, that contrasting ideas of like from the past to the present time. And we look at like world level maps, and we also look at really narrow, like much more focused, like we look at city and urban maps. Like I'm always, whenever I'm traveling or going somewhere, I'm always looking at what are the transit lines here? Are there any good bike routes that we can ride in this place, right? And like we're going to be using Google Maps a whole lot to figure out what we can see and how we can parse that data and find it for ourselves and apply it to our everyday life. So I'm super excited to be able to do this and offer and learn with your learners.
Thank you so much, Sean. When I think about, a lot of the times when I sort of conceive these AP classes, it's like, how can we help kids get credit for stuff they love, right? That's really the punchline. How can we help, Sean and the young Seans of the world who love maps and love geography and history and culture, just go into the thing they like once a week for 32 weeks, spend the whole year together, and then learn a bunch of skills along the way, right? How can they go on this journey and then get credit for it at the end and show the world how bright they are, right? Like, I want nothing more. So I really appreciate that. And again, Brooks, who's here right now, I won't out you, Brooks. 5 minutes before or 30 minutes before this phone call, we were talking, and we're talking about the partition of India and Pakistan and all these things. And I was like, come to this meeting. You have to come hear Sean. So I'm really excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let us go next over to, we've got just 2 mentors left, and then we're going to open up to questions. I'm going to go over to Katie, another exciting AP. This really wows a lot of people. I'm like, oh, by the way, they're like, do you have music classes? I'm like, well, we have songwriting and AP music theory. So Katie's going to be telling you a little bit about our AP music theory class, which again is such an exciting one. I think there's a lot of music programs. There's a lot of great arts out there. We don't often find this. And I think I know a lot of musicians who would really enjoy this a great deal, because this is, there's music and then there's music theory. So Katie, let me turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. That was actually such a good segue. I was thinking that, like just talking about, yeah, how our passions like can coincide with college credit and these really like high level courses. And also just a note on AP Music Theory specifically, and a lot of these classes that we're offering. I was talking to one of my peers at Columbia too, that's like a lifelong musician, and they said that they had to get like a bunch of kids from their high school together to pitch and like protest to the school district to get AP Music Theory in their public school. It's really not offered in many public schools across the country, let alone, programs like this that are so catered to our kids. So yeah, I'm really happy and excited to teach this. And I also want to say that it's not necessarily just a course for music kids. I think, our artsy fartsy types like myself, really benefit from it. It really helps you become a deeper musician and understand what you're hearing. But there's so much math and science in music that a lot of this course is based on that. It's based on pattern recognition. I've heard people actually compare it to kind of like learning grammar, because we're learning the fundamentals of music. We're not just analyzing how it makes us feel, we're analyzing why it makes us feel that. And so many, future college programs also require some kind of humanities, classes in the future. So this could certainly fulfill those arts degrees. And like I said, students that are interested in you know, undergrad or grad in music, these are courses that you will have to take. And sometimes you'll be able to even skip those early courses with this exam. Um, it's kind of a unique one because we do have within the AP Music Theory exam structure, there's the multiple choice and free response, but there's also a sight singing portion. So there's a lot of like written and oral, as in AURAL skills within this exam. So, we'll do a lot of the basics of reading, sheet music and writing music notation, but also, we'll get more into, again, the science and math of it. Why do these intervals sound good? What is the history of it? There's a specific interval in every kind of music, but specifically in classical music that was um, named like the devil interval because back in the day when all these classical artists were just doing church music, people considered this to be like an evil tone because it just sounded so dissonant. So we'll get into things like that will help people to kind of remember these otherwise very complex, almost mathematical ideas. Um, and one thing that I know from taking courses like this in my college and my undergrad, um, there's usually a heavy focus only on Western classical music, European music from the 1700s. There's nothing wrong with that. But, one thing that I really pride myself on as a professor is bringing the skills into real life too. So, we'll look at rock and roll. I really like when kids bring me genres that they like and songs that they like. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's look at the theory behind this song. I want it to be relevant to their real life. Learning these things has helped me, become a better songwriter, but also a better active listener when I listen to music because you can understand these really complex things that are going on. And it also kind of helps you separate all the different pieces of it, which again I think is a skill that like goes across the board, just being able to focus on just a bass line or focus just on a drum rhythm pattern. So yeah, I'm really excited to teach this. Kids will be able to compose their own pieces in this course as well. Like I said, sight singing, actually like physically singing with their bodies, which is always like a really the word I'm thinking of is spiritual experience, being able to kind of use your body um, to achieve something that can be can be used for college credit. Um, and yeah, we'll really get into all of the hidden patterns that are there, kind of the musical inside jokes that people might not realize are there every day when you're in the grocery store and you hear a Billboard Top 100 song.
Thank you so much, Kate. There's a lot. I was struck by a lot of what you were saying. One, I'm going to go in reverse order. The idea that these are like nerd clubs, right? So it like when I used to describe how do you have AP US history, like that's what I started with, like, yeah, it's basically a history nerd club. We look at funny memes and pictures and maps and history, and then we talk about, right, and that's what it is, and they get credit for, but what is it really? We're writing thesis statements, we're doing all these things. What you're saying right now is so special. It really is like spiritual. You have students who love music, who are critical consumers of information, and they're coming together. So I absolutely love that. Something
Yeah.
else that you said that really moved me was the intersectionality of all these things, right? What you're teaching is a language like what Miriam's teaching. It's mathematical like what Mr. Z is teaching, right? It's so interwoven, and I think that's such an incredible thing. And maybe the most profound, I want to say, or maybe emotional experiences I had when I was looking around at everybody that's just spoken tonight, and I thought, like, what a cool bunch of people we've collected. Like, what a cool group of like amazing mentors who are just here showing up with these passions and this great depth of knowledge. And I was like, we have this like Justice League, vibe right now. And I'm just you're all in the chat. Anyone who's watching the recording, all the teachers are like, I want to take your class and I want to take your, it's just so amazing. So I just feel so grateful to be here with you now. So thank you. Thank you for that, Katie.
Thanks.
I'm going to go over to our last speaker, and then we will have 10 minutes for Q&A. I'm going to go over to the amazing Amy. So Amy is going to be doing two things. One is AP US History, and she's going to be doing that. And this is like the second level at which Amy has taken US History in a way where we worked at a school together. I was a US History teacher, and then Amy became the US History teacher. And now I taught AP US History at Young Scholars Academy, and now Amy's teaching. So she's the upgrade. And then number two is the backbone of YSA is our fellowship class that Amy co-created. So I'm very excited. This is a departure from everything else that we do, and is definitely worth, I think maybe the best for last. So Amy, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you for such a flattering introduction. First of all, you always talk me up, and then I feel like I have huge shoes to fill.
Okay, Amy's terrible. Don't listen to her.
But thank you. I feel very embraced here. I am so excited to get to teach our AP US History class. This will be my 3rd or 4th year teaching US History. And once again, yeah, I'm filling Mr. Sam's shoes. I feel like you wear runners and I wear Birkenstocks, but we managed to walk in stride fairly effectively. I'm really excited though because you're handing me your proven framework. So I get to work with materials that have been tried and tested and shown to be successful. I believe you said the average score of students that have taken the AP US History through Young Scholars was a 4 or a 5. It kicks butt. I am getting really good materials, and then I get to put my own spin on it. And I am autistic, and one of my autistic special interests is actually history. I didn't think I was going to fall in love with US history the way that I did when I was first invited to write a curriculum for it, but it turns out that I am fiercely patriotic if you let me be autistic about something, which is what happened. So what that means is that I'm going to be using a curriculum that is modified with that passion of special interest and that kind of autistic interconnected thinking and contextual frameworking that I think allows for really good memorization and test taking skills when applied intentionally. Because everything, when it is organized and makes sense and has a causal and effect relationship, becomes just a, oh, I remember this. This is because Hamilton beefs with people. He is a drama queen. Or I remember the Gilded Age is all quoted in fool's gold, or whatever, whatever kind of mnemonic and contextual information we utilize for that. I tend to use a lot of pop culture references and slang also, which, because that's how things stick for me when I take tests. I think that that's how your things stick for your kids. They're very novelty and humor driven is what I've found. So we make it really fun. We make it really information dense and funny and rich and engaging and meaningful, because I think that US history not only is important for getting a good grade on the AP test if your student chooses to take it, but I think it's important if your kid is a citizen of this country so that they can go forward and be an informed and intentional citizen who makes good voting choices that they agree with. So I'm very much looking forward to that. As far as fellowship goes, I am, as always, wildly excited to be running a new fellowship group this year. Last year's group kicked absolute butt, took absolute names. It was so wildly successful. We had one kid who published 5 books that she wrote in English and French, illustrated, wrote music for, and narrated in order to publish them. So they are like fully finished children's books. They are adorable. My husband had a little bit of an existential crisis over her snowman story. It's very light and airy, but he thought that the tragedy of them dying before they ever lived like kind of broke his heart. So the students make really compelling work. Another student wrote an entire novel. One kid made a 3D model. One kid took on drawing skills and really began the process of building a portfolio. And this year is now taking 2 or 3 more drawing classes, so has ignited their passion. So the fellowship program is really a class where your kid writes the curriculum about what they want to learn and then achieves at the highest level, which is why it's maybe my favorite class to teach, but don't tell that to the Pokemon Club because they're also maybe my favorite class to teach. So yeah, it's gonna be a really wonderful, really fun, really productive school year.
Thank you so much, Amy. And I just want to underscore the fellowship. This is a class where kids are pitching the projects that they dream to do, and they need the executive function skills and the mentoring. And you have Amy on the humanities side, you have Malachi on the STEM side, and we're, breaking up the projects that they want to do, start the YouTube channel, do the thing. And I will say the 2 things I have to share. I went to the fellowship symposium at the end of the year, at the end of 36 weeks, they do a symposium where they present their projects, and it's all lovely. I felt like they were speaking another language this year. I had there were so many inside jokes. They had this own culture. It was self-referential. And I was like, I'm an outsider. Like, I don't understand. They were making like homage videos and mashups of one another's work. And the most meta thing that I've ever observed at Young Scholars Academy happened, which is a student wrote a fan fiction book that evolved into an original piece. And then the class wrote fan fiction for the original piece. So there was just this like mind-melting layer of community. And is that not what we're looking for, right? The ability for these kids to just form a little click together and hang out and have jokes and memes. And chat on Discord and do all the things. So it's amazing. I'm going to open it up to questions. We've talked about a lot tonight. There's many different classes, many different opportunities. And I just want to say, we're here for you. We have a bunch of mentors here. So please feel free to unmute, ask any questions. You can write them in the chat if you have any. There's a lot of moving parts. So I want to make sure we answer all of them for you. So are there any questions out there? I'll just say generally one that comes up a lot is like, how does the accreditation work and how does the AP work? So just to clarify, and again, for questions, feel free, you can either unmute and just call out, you can write it publicly in the chat, you can direct message me and I can ask it anonymously if you prefer. The way that AP works is, again, you're getting a course, it's a 32-hour course. There's going to be a practice test in the fall and a practice test in the spring so that your kid's getting the opportunity to like get the experience, roll their sleeves up, figure out how it goes and how it works. And there's no better way than just to get in the car and drive it. And then we go through, of course, and do all the skills, right? Everything we've talked about tonight, whether it's thesis writing, document analysis, developing an ear, music theory, etc. So this is one of the big things. Then if you're going to another school, you can have this reported onto the school. If they don't offer the class, you say, look, we went to this program, they're WSC accredited. Here's all the evidence. If you're homeschooling, you can say, here's a WSC accredited program, and we took this class and they're College Board approved. So you have the ability in both vehicles to get credit. The other part is the score, right? Again, you get a 1 through 5, 3, 4, and 5 give you college credit at most schools. You can decide to report that or not. So there's sort of two layers. There's like the transcript level, and then there's the college credit. And I just want to underscore this. Katie said this quickly, or maybe it was Katie, I don't know, I think. This means that you are getting a semester of college done. So you could literally take all of these classes and go to college as a sophomore, right? If they accept. So just 2 or 3 APs, 6 or 9 college credits. That's massive. All right, so let me zip my lips. Any questions out there? We did such a good job tonight. We answered all of them. Oh, okay, we got one. Yeah, Nikki. Okay. I thought you were ready in question, Nikki. I saw you typing away over there. I'm really excited, so thank you. So the question is, what kind of support is there for a kid who is maybe great with reading, critical thinking, and is a good writer, but the output of essays is really taxing? I know this is common for a lot of the kids, a bad idea to take AP Lit. So also, I'm going to have Jake speak to this in a moment, but I just want to say, this program originally, when I first started, it was called 2E AP, and the whole idea was like big ideas, low demand, right? So how can we I have kids come back from college all the time and they're like, I learned more about writing in your, history class than I ever did in my high school classes, because it's how do you analyze a document? How do you put together a thesis? What's the formula for a good thesis? Although X, Y, because ABC, all these elements. And then it's fun, it's engaging, it's something they care about, like Hamilton or whatever it might be. So I would say these are so differentiated. These are so accessible. If you're worried about your kiddo, there's tons of support. We have Google Classrooms that your child's going to have access to so they can message with the teacher. We can arrange meetings, all the stuff. This is super supportive of the bubble. Jake, I don't know if you want to speak specifically to that question at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll just say like a little bit. I have a lot of experience with kids who hate writing and then within like a month are ending up writing like 10-page essays, 10-page like short stories. Like I found that a lot of the times it's more of the internal struggle or the schooling trauma that stops people or that holds people back a little bit from writing. And in my other like coaching aspects, like I do a lot of the psychology behind the writing and like what is writing, how to approach it, like the idea of things like a zero draft and how to use that, the fact that like outlining doesn't look the same for everybody, and kind of like breaking down past traumas and past like things that were taught and instilled in kids to just find out who they are as a writer. And I've had kids come to me and be like, why is this essay an A, but this essay is also an A, and they look very different? And it's more because it's individual and it's what this person started at and where they got to. Even if it looks like absolute chaos, it's still improvement. It's still productivity. It's still them diving into it and trying. And that's what I want to push them toward the most.
That's a great answer. Yeah. So, and that's true across the APs, right? It's how can we bake in the skills, the important life lessons? And by the way, a lot of the most important lessons, I'm going to say this out loud. I often joke that the AP classes are like life skills classes masquerading with content oriented classes, right? Because a lot of it is like all the stuff, right? It's how do you sit with something? You know, there's a big test coming up. There's the test anxiety. We start August 25th. We test May 10th. You know, that's very different. What are Cornell notes? How do I even go about thematic ideas and units and so forth? Ooh, the questions are coming in. Yes, please ask. Again, how rare is it that there are like 10 educators here at your beck and call? All right, another one. Let's see. Okay, thank you for this. It's been so fascinating. I can't think of any questions right now. Great, we did a good job. All right. I know. After I hang up, that's me in life. The second you hang up, no, I'm all set. Oh, wait. It's the ADHD in me. Are the classes going to be over Zoom? Yes, everything that we do is virtual. So the kids have a couple connections. Number one, we have the ability to connect in Zoom. These are live classes. Number two, there's a Google Classroom where the teacher's sharing assignments and resources, videos, things like that. And the kids can do discussion forums and chat. And then number three, if anyone was at the open house, we launched the new metaverse, this new virtual campus, and we're actually going to have the opportunity. Jake and Miriam and I were playing it on Friday for an hour together. It is so fun. So, this is our new little campus where the kids can come together. I'll log in right quick and show you because yes, I do this quickly all the time. We have the ability for everyone to like physically, if you will, meet up in our virtual little world. And what that means is that there's kind of like 3 layers of contact, right? Teachers are available in Zoom Live. We have the ability to set up other little sessions as well. Check this out. I'm going to screen share. I'm so excited about this. I feel like we don't talk about it enough, right? Here's our little virtual campus. You can see little Mr. Sam right there hopping around. And the kids can meet up and it's proxy video chatting, right? So you can, let's say I want to get my little lunar lander here. Get my little lunar lander so I can go faster, right? And then I can go down and like play chess with someone, or I can go visit Jake in office hours or hang out with Katie. There's all these really cool little features now where we have this, yes, we're on virtual worlds, but we are, connected in a way that I don't know that anyone else is doing right now. So we're very excited about that. Let me keep going. Another question. Okay, I think that was all the questions we have. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, I want to thank you all for being here. Just to be candid, enrollment closes tomorrow. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday at midnight. Our enrollment closes, and these are like ships that are leaving, right? They're 32-week courses. They are, I believe, the fork in the road. Your child gets in this path, they go down a different path than they would without it. They're with the same kids. They're with caring mentors. You've just heard for an hour from all these incredible mentors. Imagine them shepherding your kid all year, learning the things that they need to learn, that they care about, the life skills, all the stuff, and doing it in a way that's gentle, that's aligned with their strengths, that's supportive, that's differentiated, right? So how can we help give your kid that chance, that opportunity? And I just want to say, I hope that you will take this opportunity at this moment, because the year can go a couple different ways. And I know historically, these are the most important things that we offer a lot at Young Scholars Academy. These are the most important things. Oh, a question from Nikki. When are these available? Primarily evenings. Most of these classes are offered at 4 and 5 Pacific time. So again, if you click that link below, these all close at midnight tomorrow. And I just want to say one last thing, which is, it's all upside. There's nothing to risk here. We have 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you sign up and you're like, hey, after a month, this isn't it, that's fine. We just stop the future payments and that's okay. So that doesn't happen. We've been doing this for 5 years and I've been teaching APs for 15 years to 2E kids. And if anything, people come back for more and more. We had a kid last year take 3. And we've had a kid the year before take 5. So, people, once you get into it, it's kind of like this hero's journey where they start the year and they're like, this is going to be amazing. And then it gets tough and they're like, why did I do this? And then they learn so much. They get to the end and they're like, I'm going to do 2 next year, because it's so, we're talking about philosophy. It's eudaimonia, right? Like this is a form of happiness. This is hard work, rigor, life skills. It's all the stuff. So thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to serving your families. Teachers, if there's anything else you want to add, feel free to chime in. If not, we can head out, and just thank you all so much for being here. Appreciate you all. Have a lovely evening and look forward to serving your families in 2025-2026 school year. Thank you.